We'll go ahead and get started. Oh, now we'll do it. Yes, curriculum. So thank you for sticking with us. Many of you are still here. So thank you. We're going to move on to our curriculum adoption. A reminder that the new business item brought forward this evening are for review and to ask any questions. Then we will be asked to vote at the February 28th regular meeting. So please hold all questions until the end of the presentation and reference the slide number if you have a question. So hopefully all of you have little Post-its close by where you can write down your slide number. And thank you. So
good evening again.
Good to see you.
So I am going to provide a brief overview of our curriculum resource adoption process. So here you will see our agenda for this evening. So I want to point out initially that tonight this presentation will be divided into two sections. So the first section is going to be about prior work that happened that is bringing you the curriculum resources that we're bringing to the table today. And then I will end with digging into some future work. So we've been really digging into curriculum processes, so we'll talk about that review, which will be applied to future work. Okay, so here you'll see a timeline of the adoption process. Began in fall of 2021 with the Program Evaluation Committee. You'll notice they worked through the spring and fall, and then we're getting ready currently to begin writing curriculum and developing the curriculum guides that align with Missouri Learning Standards and resources. So I want to provide just a brief, anytime we look at adopting a new curriculum, it always is founded on the Missouri Learning Standards. So the Missouri Learning Standards, this just gives you a brief overview of how they came to be if you weren't aware of this information, but this is really the foundation for any curriculum adoption that we embark on. Okay, so this gives you an overview of the resource selection process. So it began with a Program Evaluation Committee, and then in November we took the recommendation of the Evaluation Committee. They narrowed it down to the top resources. We took those at Activate to all teachers. So all K-5 teachers reviewed the top choices. 101 teachers responded with feedback. And then in December, we held virtual demonstrations. Those were made available for all K-5 teachers. You'll notice that 260 teachers participated in those virtual demonstrations by vendors and provided feedback. Okay, so the committee and teachers selected for our K-5 science resource, Cengage National Geographic. So what you're seeing on the left is a picture of one of the textbooks. So every student will receive an Exploring Science textbook, and then every 2 teachers will receive a science kit to utilize to provide the hands-on learning to accompany the textbook. Along with our science adoption, students will have access to the interactive ebook. So this interactive ebook really brings science to life for the kiddos, and they're able to see things that they can't see within the textbook. So kids have access to the digital notebook where they become scientists and they get to record digital observations as if they were a scientist. Standard aligned activities and games, and then there are additional resources for teachers within the software as well. So here I'll give you just a second to review some of the differences in our current adoption compared to our previous adoption. Some of the differences that you'll notice are the addition of student textbooks, also a printed teacher's manual, also a designated time for science. Previously, science was integrated into other subjects, and what teachers on the committee pointed out is that oftentimes those science minutes may be neglected, and so it was important that we pull that time back out and dedicate additional minutes to science. Okay, for K-5 Health, the committee chose Quaver as their resource. So Quaver provides engaging movement and interactive health lessons, which was very, very important when selecting a health curriculum. Within Quaver, they also provide flexible, DESE recommends anywhere from 15 minutes a day to 60 minutes a week. So within Quaver, they have lessons that are 10 to 15 minutes, and then also hour-long lessons so that the teacher can tailor that instruction to meet their needs. Something additional that I want to point out with Quaver is on this slide. So within the current adoption, developers within Quaver work together to find and prepare intentional lessons that are aligned with Missouri learning standards and also include movement-based activity. So what that means is that Quaver's aligned lessons are embedded within Quaver's software, their platform, which results in safe access to learning for students. So our previous adoption, we didn't adopt a health curriculum. It was written by teachers, and it was primarily resources that they found online. Okay, when we look at K-5 social studies, the committee selected social studies weekly. So every student will receive a weekly periodical, and then also online access to virtual field trips and activities that support what they're learning in their periodical. Here you'll see a comparison, a breakdown between some of the differences between the current adoption and the previous adoption. You'll notice that the online access, they did not have online access to virtual field trips and activities, and you'll notice increased alignment to Missouri learning standards. Okay, for 612 social studies, the committee and teachers selected Cengage National Geographic and Houghton Mifflin Harcourt as the primary resource, and then also 2 additional supplemental resources. So 6th through 11th grade courses and advanced placement courses will receive the National Geographic textbook. These were placed in 148. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at them, but they're excellent resources. Students will also have access to MindTap that's a digital interactive resource. Here's one example of what MindTap does and provides for students, online atlases. One interesting thing that I learned through this process is that National Geographic has their own explorer. So if a student is learning about an animal that lives in the desert, the National Geographic explorers actually go to the desert and interact with the animal, and so the students get to kind of go alongside the explorer, but we have exclusive access to those videos that really brings the science to life for kids and social studies. So Houghton Mifflin Harcourt provides textbooks for psychology, sociology, and world geography. They also have online access. So ABC Clio is a supplemental resource, and the committee made this decision because basically this is safe online research for students. So there are 11 databases, it's skill-based, and it has primary source materials that students can utilize as they engage in research. Also, the DBQ project, which is document-based questions. This is a supplemental resource that we have had in the past. We did not purchase the print version in the past. What we heard from teachers is we want the print resources which they can copy for students. Here you'll see the difference between our current adoption and our previous social studies adoption. Again, you'll see the addition of student textbooks, a printed teacher's manual, and also an improved digital platform. Okay, so now I want to shift your thinking just a second to future work. So our previous processes were used, our current processes, for the curriculum adoption that we just completed. But now I want to walk you through the charge. I was really charged with examining curriculum processes and procedures, and so I'll briefly go into the charge, the timeline, some of the findings of that work, and some next steps. So here you'll see, I'll give you just a second to read the purpose of this work. Here you'll see a timeline of when that work began. So in the spring, all principals sat down with every content-specific team or grade level team, and they really dug into what resources within the curriculum are we utilizing on a regular basis. And in the summer, we brought K-5 teacher teams together, and they revised scope and sequence to improve alignment to Missouri learning standards. In the fall, you have heard a lot about us restructuring CDC. That work continues. The purpose for that was to increase teacher input in the evaluation of our curriculum resource, and is it resulting in student learning for students. And then this fall to currently, we just had our 5th meeting, I believe. The Curriculum Adoption Committee has been meeting to evaluate and revise current processes. So here you'll see the committee was composed of 30 representatives from 9 different departments who collaborated around this important work. The work of the committee was really grounded in ensuring a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all students across SPS. So what we know, what aligning school districts as PLCs tells us that it's important that that in order to have a guaranteed and viable curriculum, it's equally available to all students, that it's tied to essential standards and articulated vertically throughout the district. And so I think this is that's in a different color, but it doesn't look like a different color on the screen. But without this non-negotiable in place, nothing connects what is taught to what is learned to what is being assessed, which was really what this process was about. So the committee not only founded its work on a guaranteed and viable curriculum, we also focused on the written, taught, and assessed curriculum. So we looked at is our written curriculum aligned with state and national standards? Then is that curriculum being implemented by teachers? And then how are we assessing or testing student learning to know our students' learning as a result of those two processes? So the committee identified 5 gaps as a result of this meeting. And so one of those gaps was that our written curriculum, it is aligned to state and national standards, but we can do a better job of aligning to state and national standards and scoping and sequencing the standards and the curriculum so that students get learning in time. We lack a process for monitoring and supporting implementation, and what research tells us is this can be improved through job-embedded professional learning. We also discovered that implementation of the written curriculum is not occurring consistently across the system, which really prevents us from having that truly guaranteed and viable curriculum. The committee also identified a need for common formative assessments to measure attained curriculum and adjust instruction accordingly. Finally, the committee felt like a 6-year curriculum adoption cycle is too long. They felt strongly that 6 years is too long to wait if the resource that we're providing for kids is not resulting in student learning. We need to have a yearly process to identify if it's working and the ability to make shifts if that's what is determined. So here are the primary 6 recommendations. So most of these recommendations are tied to the findings that I just shared. I'll highlight some of the key ones is to revise the current phases from 6 to a 4-year cycle, to create a curriculum management plan that outlines all curriculum processes and procedures to ensure consistency across content and grade level, to also create consistent documents for teachers that are tightly aligned with state and national standards. And then the committee felt strongly about obtaining and analyzing feedback from additional stakeholders on updated procedures. So what those recommendations resulted in is the committee has developed a tool to monitor and evaluate intended, implemented, and attained curriculum. They have created a curriculum management plan, and then we're currently analyzing input received from teachers just recently in the January and February Curriculum Development Council meetings. So that committee took the work that we have accomplished so far, and we wanted to go ahead and put that in front of teachers and get input while we had them in front of us in January and February. So next step would be to engage the stakeholders included on the right to get additional feedback prior to finalizing all updated processes and procedures. So as you notice, the work of this committee in updating new processes is tightly aligned to our new strategic plan. It really falls under SMART Goal 1.2.1, and it really lives in Strategy A, which you'll note mentions and references a guaranteed and viable curriculum. So Leaders of Learning tells us, in Leaders of Learning, Richard DeFore and Robert Marzano tell us that a guaranteed and viable curriculum is the variable most strongly related to student achievement at the school level. And that's why we're embarking on this work of evaluating our processes and procedures. Also, one of the most powerful things a school can do to help enhance student achievement is to guarantee that specific content is taught in specific courses and grade levels. And that really drove the focus of the work, focusing on the written, the implemented, and then the tested curriculum. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present the work of multiple departments and teams, and what questions can I answer?
Great, thank you. Okay. Who's up? Miriam? Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, started.
Okay, so I just want to applaud the work that's been done. I gotta like smile so much.
Smiling's good.
I don't even know where to start. I have two questions and then comments, and lots of praise. I was able to see the books. I haven't had a chance to review them, so I want to just say thank you for making them available to us to review. So I see that the books that are being purchased are class sets in the little tables. Would students have the opportunity to take that books home to study and to share with their parents and get them involved in the learning? Will they have that opportunity?
Yes, they will. So students will have the opportunity to check out the books and take them home if they need to. So that's why we wanted to make sure that every class had a
full class set.
but also, yes, books that were available to check out.
Like a few extra just in case, that little ones don't always bring it back on time.
Yes.
Okay, then the next question was, and this is something that I think would help with transparency and also recruitment of families to the district. I hear there was a room called the resource room, and it resided in an elementary, maybe it was Robertson, maybe it was another school, I don't know, and this was an opportunity for prospective parents or stakeholders who wanted to see what our curriculum is. Do you know if there's any plans or as part of the CDC, talking, if there's any plans to bring that resource room back?
So
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I've heard of the resource room. As far as inviting parents in, so we've engaged in lots of discussions about getting feedback from parents on the entire curriculum evaluation.
No, I don't mean inviting them in.
Right, but you want them to see the resources.
Mr. Smith would like to bring his kids, to Springfield Public Schools. He thinks great things are happening and he wants to give it a shot. But he'd like to come and review. Would there be an opportunity, kind of like I guess it's like an in-person sunshine request? I don't know how you want to look at it.
Let us go back and talk about that. I think what you're referring to, I might be wrong, those seasoned people from the district, that was around special education where the resources you're saying were available to needs?
I know at one time that every school had a resource room where
Every school.
where the curriculum was housed for our sped kids. And that's where they kept a copy of all the curriculum books. I don't know what that's been like recently, but it wasn't just a place that was open for anyone to come because
So we currently, in all schools, we have a book room.
The book room, but that's...
it would be in the library. Libraries
Did you
often
see it in is that the tour that we went on to an elementary school like a year and a half ago or so?
Delaware.
Yes, I think you were there as well, and there was a room with
The book room.
the book, yes.
No, that was the books for the students. That wasn't curriculum. That was class sets of books.
Okay, okay.
This is so, let's say Kelly Byrne would like to go and have his kids attend Delaware, and, because I did this. I went to, I straddled Delaware and Roundtree, so I went and toured both of them to make a decision. Maybe, could this be made available to prospective parents who'd like to see the curriculum?
The resource room, I think that Dr. Frederick is alluding to is, practice in the past has been that our special education teachers are equipped with curricular content across grade levels because they service students in a variety of needs. So we always sent multiple grade levels in an elementary, multiple grade levels in a high school of specific content that maybe lived in a resource room because they needed to access it so readily. So I think that's the context for resource room that Dr. Frederick's talking about. We do have places on each campus, book rooms, where we house all the learning materials like sets of books that teachers might use to do small group reading with, or big books that are shared between grade levels might reside in that space for teachers to pull out and use as accessible. But we could certainly entertain or bring back to the committee or have dialogue at
I think it's
ELT
SPS University.
about
That is
a place to
our
review
public
that.
forum for getting parents and community members involved. That's why we implemented that 2 years ago, and so we encourage people, if they want to find out what's going on, that's an opportunity. And so we need to make sure, as we think about individual campuses, there could be designated times, but we also have to make sure we don't take away from what principals and teachers need to do. So I'd say the first top stab at it would be through SPS University, people, and getting them to come out.
It's a good suggestion, and I'm hearing this as just a request for if we're going to have hard copy versions of curriculum, that we can make those available as much as possible to the parents and guardians. Is that what you're saying?
Their children will have
When
them.
she said recruitment, you were talking about recruitment.
She's talking about people outside the district that would.
You're talking about parents or guardians being able to see this, to see these, to
Well, no, I'm
go
just
to the,
saying
look at them, see
We
what's in
have
them.
lost a lot of students to a variety of private schools, and our enrollment numbers are still down since pre-COVID. Yes, when COVID hit, some of the schools didn't close, so people were more in favor of them, and I'd like to recruit them back. And also and that brings me to my next, I'm just going to make a couple more comments and then be done. So, and I appreciate, and I'm going to tie this back in, has to do with books. I appreciate all the tables that you have that shows that in the previous adoption, we did lose a lot of textbooks. And so that wasn't very popular with some families, and the ones who could afford it, who were seeking those options, did. And I'd like to bring them back. And so an invitation to that would be, this is what we have, and here you can come and see it. So that's just what I meant by that.
Before we move off that topic, though, to clarify, you were looking for ways that we can show off what we have in terms of physical curriculum to engage with the households, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I would agree with
The
that.
first question I had, can kids take it home? She already said yes.
Right, and I think that's great. So I guess I would agree with that if the sentiment is, let's find ways to work with our households to show them what we're teaching them and let them come in. I'm asking for recommendations. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to say it's a resource room or a book room or whatever. I'm just saying it sounds like you're asking, and I'm agreeing with. Can we think about ways that we can show this off to the families and communicate with the families what's being taught in the classroom and be as transparent as possible? You recommended SPS University. That can be one way for sure.
Yes, that's, okay.
So I also, as a prior principal, oftentimes families would schedule a visit, and within that visit, we would talk about the curriculum resource in depth. All of our leaders know the curriculum resources, so that's something we're currently doing. Now, I know we have some families who don't schedule a visit. For those that do, as a prior principal, we engaged in conversations in detail about the curriculum. We can definitely look for additional ways. I jotted that down.
Well, just a couple more comments. I really applaud the use of science books in K-5 because I think it just goes a long way towards literacy. It sparks interest, and kids tend to read things that are interesting, and animals and all that fun science stuff. So thank you for that. And again, thank you for having the tables that shows that there is a shift that's occurring, and I think that a lot of parents and guardians and grandparents will be really impressed with that. Another thing that I'm impressed with is on slide 20, which is provide online possibilities. This is something that I don't know if people have, I don't know, because your kids have all grown up and have left the home, but when we shifted towards the digital and online learning, a key component that was lost was primary source material. So often, it's so easy for kids to just go and grab information off the internet and don't have that understanding of just how important that is. And so I just can't emphasize enough that this is lost, and it's so nice that when you do bring this, that these are primary source and that kids understand the value in primary source. That's still very, very important. Okay, I'm almost done with my phrase. Hold on, almost there. Little notes written. I'm also very impressed with slides, just as you were going, 24 and 29, where the purpose is to examine the impact of the implemented curriculum on student learning so that the curriculum can be revised if necessary. And then in slide 29, you actually closed that window shortened it from 7 years to 4, I believe you said. So I think that shows, a lot of insight into the ability to be able to gauge and stay on top of it and be able to move forward in that positive direction. And so my big ask is science and social studies is really exciting. I just wish it was a different year because I'm I'm still concerned about English and math because it is where the body of numeracy and literacy is occurring. So if I'm correct in I'm counting backwards, those were adopted in 2021, so they'll be up in 2025.
So we're actually starting the program evaluation process for K-5 ELA in about 2 weeks. And then along with that will be 6-12 mathematics. Those are both on the next curriculum cycle.
So it has been shortened even beyond 4 years.
Yes, so we adjusted the cycle to the new 4-year process.
Thank you so much.
What does that mean in terms of end date? She said 2025, and you said we're starting it, but I'm unclear on when.
So that would mean we'll start the evaluation process, and then it would be implemented next fall. I mean, not the fall of 2023, fall of 2024.
That means this time next year, we're going to get a presentation on
Exactly.
am I understanding? 612, not all of it, 612 math
6-12 math.
and K-5 ELA.
Yes.
This time next year. And potentially the following year, it could be 612 ELA and K-5 math.
We hope that it's
Theoretically.
sooner in January. I think with COVID, it takes a long time to get the resources, so we hope to speed that up so we can ensure that teachers and kids have the resources in their hands in August. So we're hoping this presentation will be in January next year.
Oh, I see what you mean. Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else?
I don't have any questions. I have a comment. Thank you for all the work that you guys have put into this. This is a great presentation from and getting teachers involved from the very beginning, getting their input, and I love gap analysis, and then taking those gaps, evaluating those gaps, analyzing them, and then coming up with some recommendations from it. Well done.
I'd like to add a couple things. Same sentiment, thank you. 6 years was too long, shortening it down. Great, thank you for finding ways to do that. One question, just for clarity, I saw some of the specifics on here in terms of, there was a lot of things where or a lot of different resources where there was both a physical and a digital option. Yeah. But to clarify, across the board, are we looking at curriculum resources that are both physical and digital to give us flexibility moving forward? Are we giving high priority to that across the board, or are there still some areas where we're limiting ourselves to one or the other?
No, I mean, I think what we heard from teachers is they want print resources. And so we purchased the online textbook because we know if a student leaves their textbook, say they checked it out but they left it, but they have homework to do that night, we want to make sure that they have access to that textbook at the right time. So it's important that we maintain the online access, but definitely, I mean...
Exactly, we're doing both.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to have the physical and the...
Print.
So the print of the books, and we'll also have the digital version so that we can be flexible and adapt and not be... Because we're committing to these for 4 years, right? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, before I step down, I want to take 1 second. If you guys will stand up, we have teachers here that served on the committee and curriculum coordinators who have been engaged in this.
Can you introduce them so we'll know who's, or do you?
Yeah.
Let them introduce themselves, who's who?
So we have Amanda Bodenstein, and I would also like to point out that her husband is here with her tonight because it's Valentine's Day. So they're spending their Valentine's Day at the board. And then we have Kylie Elmore, who teaches at Glendale. We have Michael DeLuey, who teaches at Wilson's Creek. We have Jenny Talbert, who will be our new K-5 curriculum director next year. We have Wendy Robinson, who will be our 6-12 curriculum director next year, and we have Brad Brummel, who is currently our K-5 PE and Health Activities and Engagement Coordinator.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
Can we clap again? I hardly ever clap.
Yeah.
I clap a lot, but this one's good.
All right. Travis is up next.
Okay, moving on to our student nutrition management expenditures. Dr. Travis Shaw and Kim Keller is here as well.
I'll invite Kim Keller up with me.
Thank you.
So tonight, we get to bring you first read for the contract renewal and expenditures for student nutrition operations and management. So before I dive into the technical piece of the actual contract renewal request, we've asked Kim to provide you with a presentation of all of the services and many more things that Airmark provides for our students and our staff, actually. And so I will turn it over to her, and then we'll come back to the renewal.
Just as a reminder, board members, last year this recommendation came to you in June. It is February this year.
I recollect that.
Kelly had a ton of questions at that time.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I didn't say that part.
I'd like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to tell our story and a brief presentation about all the different things, great things that we're doing out in the schools. So first, I'd like to just point out our aligned missions. The district recently redid their missions, and our student nutrition mission is to provide nutritious meals which meet the needs of students' academic, physical well-being, which is very closely aligned with SPS is committed to the well-being of each student by providing high-quality academic opportunities. So many of you may not know, but we've been partners. Airmark has been partners with SPS since 1991. So 32 years of a successful partnership, and we appreciate that and want to continue that partnership. So I'll tell you a little bit about what we do. This is our student nutrition team. In the past year, one of the things we did was we started branding our student nutrition department. We changed from nutrition services to student nutrition because that's why we're here, is to take care of our students' needs. And we started the SPS Food Company brand, in addition to Powering Potential, which is our tagline with Airmark. So this is our team here. We have 10 folks that are on the Airmark side and 2 that are district employees. This kind of goes over what makes a reimbursable meal. This is a lot of the collateral that Airmark provides that ensures that students understand what makes a meal, whether it's at elementary, middle school, or high school levels. We do have offer versus serve, which means OVS is offer versus serve. It's provided at all K-12 sites, allows students choices. So the goal is to reduce waste so that they're not getting straight serve and throwing away things that they wouldn't eat. They have to take at least 3 items out of the 5 components, and one of them has to be a fruit or a vegetable. They can get up to 6 items. Anything over 6, they get an additional charge. If they can take up to 6 different items on their meals. There is a new proposed rule for school meal standards that just came out about 2 weeks ago, and they'll be looking at, USDA will be looking at whether they implement those or not. So looking at regulations, again, that was a big one in 2010, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. So this kind of gives a guideline of when those might go into effect. The big thing is our dietitian also, this shows some of the menus. We have to prepare over 20 different menus each month. Our dietitian works closely with school nurses and families with any allergy or dietary needs as well. So, our biggest thing is our team is committed to meeting or exceeding our USDA regulations and guidelines when it comes to menus. So. Prima Web. Prima is an acronym. This is an Airmark tool that's used throughout the district. Prima stands for Production, Recipes, Inventory, Menus, and Analysis. So I have a copy of a recipe card up here, one of Dr. Lathan's favorites. It's our, and you guys had a chance to try this tonight. This is our buffalo blue cheese chicken pizza. So we had a sample of it for you guys to try. I don't know if you had the opportunity to try that. But this shows a recipe card. It shows all of the nutritional analysis of each and every item. It goes into saturated fat, calories, portion sizes, fiber, sugars, all those kinds of things. So every single recipe that we utilize every day has a recipe card that goes along with it. The great thing about Prima is we can go in and say that we want to prepare this item, well, not pizza because pizza's cut into 8 slices, but maybe lasagna, but I need it for 58 people. It'll give me exact amounts that I can make a recipe for 58 people. Great thing also about Prima is it ties in with NutriSlice, which is our menu analysis, or our menu platform that's online for students and families to look at menus at every site. and Prima links or syncs up every night with NutriSlice. So if somebody at site had to change a menu because maybe a freezer goes down, they could do that and change the menu, and it syncs overnight so families would know exactly what's going to be on the menu. So, great tool that Airmark provides for us. Every member of our team out in the schools utilizes this tool every day. So. This is about our USD commodities. Last year, SPS was entitled up to $887,000 in USDA commodities. We just received our food packet, so we'll be working on that for this next year. We're entitled a little over $1 million this year. This last year, one of the things that we work with our vendors closely, we were able to acquire another $11,000 in DOD fresh produce and an additional $125,000 in bonus miscellaneous commodity items. And that's because a lot of districts may not use all of their entitlement. If they don't use up to 60% by January, they start doing what they call sweeps. So we work closely with the state to see if there's any money or funds available. We just received another 10,000 pounds of apples from Peterson Farms because they had some extra apples that other districts in Missouri were not utilizing. So we're very cognizant of ensuring that we're keeping on top of that to utilize any additional items there. Creating foodies of the future, that's kind of what we're going for. So we've changed a lot of our menus over the past couple years. On the left top, it shows you the barbecue chicken plate. That's an example of some of the marketing that Airmark provides. But on the right, you can see an actual display plate that Glendale had of that particular limited time offer item. One of the other things we started this last year was ensuring that every single site, elementary through high school, had a fresh side salad as a vegetable option every single day. And that's been huge. People have loved that. So that's been a great addition to our meals as well. And this just shows some of the other spring menu favorites and limited time offers that we have. Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Grant Program. This is one of my favorites. Typically, we get about $225,000 a year. This last year, we were granted $455,000. This is money that we're allowed to use to provide students an additional fresh fruit or fresh vegetable during the school day, not at breakfast or not at lunch. So this is an extra snack that we get to provide them. So we try and do it twice a week. And we do regular things, strawberries, apples, bananas, but then we also do crazy things. So things that some of these kids may never have seen. So rambutans, Romanesco, dragon fruit. It's lots of fun. The great thing with this is and that grant is at 22 elementary sites. So just so you know, your big book has all the different sites in there. We also provide information on each of the items to the teachers, and we also provide grade or age-appropriate activity sheets for the kids that tie in with each one of those offerings. We were also able to participate in the Missouri Crunch-Off and provide local apples to these students. So we had 2 different varieties that were actual local Missouri apples for these kids. So and you can see they're all eating it off to the side because these are all like first kindergartners that don't have front teeth. So off to the side. One of the fun things that we get to do is participate in our junior chef competition, which is going to be held at Hillcrest this year, where that's part of our Farm to School initiative that we started many years ago. I think it's 2016. This will be our 5th annual junior chef competition, and this year it's Viva Italiano is the theme. These students are grades 3rd through 8th in teams of 2 to 4 students. They create their own recipes. We allow them to go out to the farmer's market and purchase locally grown foods to make in those recipes, and then they'll create their recipes when they get back to the school after going to the farmer's market, and then we have a panel of judges that grade them on best use of local, best taste, those kinds of things, and it's a fun day. One of the other things we get to do is our Southwest Mobile Dairy Classroom. We'll be providing that at 6 locations in April. They actually bring a live cow. There's a garage door on the side of that trailer that pops open, and there's a cow there. and the facilitator goes over where dairy products come from. They actually milk the cow in front of the kids, and they're all oohing and ahhing and telling us that their gutters are leaking. It's like, those are udders, not gutters. But it's fun. Some of these kids have never seen a cow before, so it's a lot of fun. If you get the opportunity to go by when we're doing that, it's a lot of fun. Student experience in the cafes. So this is something that we've been working on over the last 12 to 18 months, is improving the marketing in our sites. So this is just some of the kiddos in our schools at SPS and Ace the Fox visiting. So some of the things we were able to implement our Rally Cafe in all 5 high schools over spring break this last year. This shows some of the before and afters, where we had the green, orange, and plum were kind of the generic tied in with our marketing. But you can see the new cleaner lines. Our marketing ties in with the mascot of each high school, as well as the colors. Kind of hard to see with the light in here, but everything has like the Kickapoo Chiefs or the Central Bulldogs, so ties in with colors and their mascot, and they've really enjoyed that. We've also have some with our SPS Food Company logo in there. School Cap is for our elementary sites. We've already implemented 12 sites. We're on to our 3rd phase, so it just adds a pop of color. Ace and his friends. Ace the Fox is our mascot for elementary levels, but it just adds a pop of color, makes the cafes a little more fun environment for the kids. That's cool. And Lunchpad is the newest innovative marketing idea for our middle schools. So we just received pallets of the marketing material that we're going to try and get all of that implemented at these 4 sites before spring break. So New Jarrett, Carver, Cherokee, and Pipkin will be the first ones, and we're one of the first accounts in the country to have this new marketing. So we're excited to get that installed. We had the opportunity to work with Parkview during their Power Hour. We started Power Hour this last year, and we worked with Natalie and her team and our student nutrition team to feed all the students in Parkview in a 1-hour period. So 1,400 kids in one cafeteria, they're not all going to fit. So we had to think outside the box on what we could do to have different eating areas in the schools. So there's a student union area that we initially set up kind of a serving line, but now we have been able to get our new Godega electric food cart, and it has warmers, it has refrigerators on both sides, it has a POS on the back, it actually drives through the hallways, and it's amazing. So we're excited for when spring will get here and it's warmer weather, we're able to utilize the courtyard outside as an additional serving area for these students. So we serve about 150, 160 meals out of this cart every day. So kids love it. It's amazing. So it's been a great addition. One of the newest things that we just started was Cherokee Middle School. We started Second Chance Breakfast. So this is a site that we saw low participation with breakfast. They have a lower free and reduced percentage at this school site. In the first 2 weeks, what we've done is provided carts at each of the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade hallways in between first and second period, because they don't start till 9 o'clock. So these kids don't eat breakfast. They're not eating lunch till almost 1 o'clock. I have a lot of hangry teenagers by that time. So this has been great. In the first 2 weeks, we were able to double our participation in breakfast. So we're looking at implementing this at some other sites to increase breakfast participation. Catering, I think you all know what we do with catering. Chef Kyle and Chef Scott do a fantastic job, and they go above and beyond always. So we appreciate all their efforts and all that they do. We are getting ready to implement one of Airmark's tools called Cater Tracks, where admin assistants will be able to place orders online. So and all our invoicing will be on there, and they can keep track of previous orders, so it's an ongoing order that they do all the time. So we're excited to get that going. Oh, this part of the slide didn't load. Oh, okay, we'll go over this. So this just shows our entire student nutrition services team. Wow. This is all the lunch ladies and meal men of the whole district at our back to school training and meeting, our first day of school. So We were lucky enough to have Dr. Lathan, Dr. Holt, and Dr. Mulford come out and say hello and help us present our Employee of the Year award as well. But Ren took a picture for us, so that was the first time we'd ever had everybody in a picture, so that was just kind of a fun one. So we have lots of folks out there who work really hard every day to ensure that our students are getting the meals and nutrition that they need, so. But that was the condensed version, and I tried to go fast.
You want to speak to the manual that they have at their desk?
So there is the not condensed version here, and then in addition, this page, these
No, it's
pages.
just that one.
Do what?
No, just the first one.
What am I
Yeah,
talking
that's
about?
it. That's the only one we have.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So you guys will have this one, and if you have any questions that I didn't answer, I'm happy to answer those.
So as we move into the recommendation, and again, this is for first read on the contract renewal, this began back in January of '21 when we led an RFP for nutrition services management. And Aramark at that time was selected by the Board of Education. It was a one-year contract with the possibility of 4 one-year contract renewals. This would be the second of those 4 contract renewals. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education does recommend that along with the contract renewal for the fees specific to Aramark, that the board would also at the same time, because all these expenses will be incurred by the district through either reimbursement or direct pay, that you would approve at the same time food expenses, supplies, the wages and benefits of the specific Aramark employees, that we would reimburse for that, as well as the administrative and management fees associated. So in board docs are a couple different documents. One was a chart that looks like this. The contract renewal excuse me, is tied specifically to the CPI. And so the CPI, if you paid attention to, it's kind of been all over the place. We expect it to land in the range of 5 to 7%. And so you can see the range here of what we're paying currently for the fees, all the way up to what would be an 8% CPI. And then you'll also see a copy in board docs of the actual agreement that specifies how much per meal their fee is specific to the amount of meals that are served annually. And so the administrative fee is represented by .0434, and then the management is .0325 for a total of .07590. That's current, and so then whatever that CPI is that's determined in May would be what their actual fee would be. So one question you may have is, with us renewing or recommending for renewal in June last year, why are we moving this up? In the event, even though the CPI doesn't get set until May by the state, in the event that the board would choose to go a different direction, and this is presented to you in June, we would not be able to get this turned around and have a new company in place. And so, therefore, our best practice would be to bring this up in February to you, and then once that CPI is officially set, in the event that it would exceed 6%, which is what the recommendation in front of you is for, then it would just be a simple change order that would be in KCOB that you would approve at that particular time. And so the fees before you for consideration that you would vote on next meeting would be, and these are all estimates based on 3.8 million meals served. That's historical perspective on what we have served. It's been a little difficult due to the pandemic, because as you know, when all of the meals were free to everyone, then the meals percentages obviously went up. And so this is an estimate that we have. One of the questions I think that was asked last time, is this 100% straight out of the district pocket? Remember that all meals that are served, there is reimbursement for all meals based on whether they're free, reduced, or full price meals. So we, in the past several years, the district has actually been in the black in student nutrition, and so that's one of the things that we can attribute to Aramark's management of the funds. But the fees in front of you represent food estimate of $5.13 million, supplies at $684,000, the salary and benefit reimbursement for the Aramark staff, $923,382, administrative and management fees, again, that's the 6%, at $305,725. So an estimated total expense for the entire fiscal year would be $7,043,107, and again, that's based on that 6% CPI and 3.8 million meals served. So I will stop at that point and allow you to ask questions around anything that Kim presented or the contract renewal request.
Okay.
I have one question for you and then a couple. So you said reimbursed, so that's reimbursed by the federal government, right?
Well, the meal reimbursement, yes.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
So you estimate that now that we're post-COVID and we're back to operating as normal, we'll be operating in the black?
Well, that's our hope every single year, yes. And that is tied obviously to what do food costs do, how many meals are we serving?
But that's your projection at this time?
Correct, because we've been that way for at least the last 5 years, so.
And then Kim, so I saw on one of the slides that you had the current FRL rate at 53. Is that like 53.46? Is that current?
As of yesterday, it was 53.52.
Okay.
So we're up a little
So
higher.
that is getting all the applications, okay. And then that's,
We're almost at pre-pandemic.
yeah,
so
okay,
that's
so I just wanted to ask that. I didn't know like when the slide was made or
It
how
was
current
made a
that was.
couple weeks
Okay.
ago, and I got the current number.
Okay, and then the second chance breakfast, which is between first and second period, so are the students allowed to, when are they eating it? Do they
They're
eat it?
taking it to their second class.
So they're allowed to eat in the second class, okay.
And the one thing about Cherokee is those aren't breakfast in the classroom. So I mean, full-price students are still paying full price, reduced are paying reduced, and
It's just an
free will get it for free.
opportunity to purchase it later.
Correct.
But the teachers are allowing them to eat it, even though it's during class, okay. And then, I just want to commend you about that grant program at 22 sites. That's pretty fantastic.
It is a really fun program. It's one of my favorites. It's-
Yeah, and, you know, nobody knows this, but before I started doing this thing about technology and books, I was on a rampage about nutrition. And it worked really, really hard to bring to one of the Catholic elementary schools, it was a lot of work to bring a salad bar. And this was 10 years ago. So it's very nice to see that every single site, there is an option to have a side salad.
Every single day.
Is that new? Is that just this year?
That's this year that.
Okay, so,
We would typically have it a couple times a week with
Right.
other offerings.
But now it's
we made it
every
an
site,
additional offering
every day, so,
I will put a little asterisk on that. We had about a 3-week period in December when lettuce was over $100. And we didn't do that. But we're back to it now, so.
thank you.
I just have a really brief question. You've got a team of 11, but 2 of those are SPS employees, is that correct?
Yes, there's 10 Airmark and 2 district,
So when we're,
team of 12.
when we're looking at the salary and benefits reimbursement, does that
It's just
include?
Airmark.
It's just the Airmark employees, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the thorough presentation and for moving it up. Very much appreciated. I do have one question. Maybe it's been answered in here, but just for clarity for me. The way that this contract works and Aramark obviously has to make money, right? How does their compensation work in terms of, is it just a markup on every meal they serve?
Correct. So if you look at the amendment that's on board docs, Kelly, it's tied specifically to the number of meals served. And so they have an administrative fee that is 4.34 cents per meal. And then there's a management fee that is 3.25 cents per meal. That's the current fee structure. And so that's exactly how that is tied. So when you look at this year, based on the 3.8 million meals, our fee to Airmark is $288,420. And so then in the contract, the increase to that fee is based on specifically tied to the CPI.
That's in addition to the salaries and all
Correct.
the operating, that's just
Correct.
profit, so that they
Right.
can be a company.
That is how, right, that's how they make money, is based on that fee, and then we reimburse for their,
Aramark is financially incentivized to distribute more meals.
yeah. So the more meals, the more participation, which we obviously want for our kids eating meals, then, you know, they're being fed, they're learning, we hope, better with full bellies and good nutritious meals. And then that's also tied directly to their food.
We also don't want waste, so how do you balance that? If you're, on one hand, you're incentivizing more meals going out the door, how do you...
Waste.
How do you...
Well, I think the offer versus serve, and I don't want to speak for Kim, but the offer versus serve is a huge piece to that because...
Fair tables and the offer versus serve,
Yeah, so they're picking the
students
things
are
that they-
picking what they want
What
to
they want,
eat.
not here you go, and then
have
they
to
want
take
one
it.
thing on there and then
Choice.
they're getting thrown out. So that should reduce that concern.
Good, thank you.
Kids' choices?
Kim, I just want to say that I've had the opportunity to work with you and your staff. You guys are amazing, and you do a wonderful job. You care deeply for all of our students to make sure that they're getting good, nutritious food, and you guys go above and beyond, so I really appreciate
Very,
you.
very much. I appreciate that. That takes a whole team, and some of them here tonight, so.
You have your team, some of your team?
I have a few of my
Do
team.
you have them stand up?
This is Christy Mackey. She's our registered manager.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of people to make it happen, but they do a great
Absolutely.
job, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Very good. Okay. We're moving right along here.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. Thank you, Travis.
Okay, 6.0, 6.03, E-rate.
Thank you, Steve, for fixing that.
E-rate purchase approval. I think he needed, I think he might need another break here.
He just wanted to get up and walk.
Hi, Bruce.
Good evening. The most exciting part of the night here with the E-rate conversation. So we'll quickly go over just what we're talking about with what's presented to you for approval on February 28th. So we'll quickly go over just what is E-rate, what's an overview of that program, where are we at with our district network, what is the financial impact and how does that break down for this specific purchase, and then what are the next steps with how we process this. So the E-rate program's been around for over 25 years. At the core, what it's about is making internet access affordable for schools and libraries. That's why it was founded 25 years ago. They continue to serve that mission. They've revamped it multiple times, and they do that in different cycles. So what we're looking at with E-rate is a very defined program. There are very well-defined steps that we have to take to be compliant, and also deadlines that we have to meet. So here's just the E-rate cycle, which starts with the competitive bidding process. So that's Form 470 that we filed through the USAC program, and this is where we request proposals for equipment and services around the covered categories. So this was completed in the September to December timeframe. Tonight, we are at the request stage where we are looking to award the bid based upon our evaluative criteria from that competitive bidding process, with a due date of March 28th for us to submit that Form 471. From there, it then goes to USAC, which is the administrative component of the E-rate program, for review. They ensure our compliance, that we've done our due diligence, that we've done the competitive bidding process. And once they've reviewed and approved, they give us an official funding letter, meaning they are promising us these dollars. So once we receive those dollars, we get to work. So we issue the purchase order, we then are able to start invoicing for the services and equipment that we would purchase. So E-rate covers two different categories of services and equipment. Category one is around the actual internet access. There's no budget around that. So that means that we will get reimbursement for whatever we bring forward off of that. Category two is about our internal connections. That's our network. That's what we own and run, that then they have a 5-year cycle of budget. And that's a per pupil allocation. So it works out to just over $4 million for this 5-year cycle. When I say 5-year cycle, from FY21 through FY25, that's how long we have to spend that $4 million. That's our reimbursement amount. So we want to obviously take advantage of that. So as we look at our network, we refreshed our entire network through the 2013 bond. At that time, what we did was refresh all the wired network and all the wireless network, because at the time we didn't have complete wireless coverage in our buildings. So we've already completed a full refresh of our wireless network. And we've done that through the Category 2 funds already. and that happened between 2018 and 2023. We wrapped it up just a couple months ago, and that's to try and keep our wireless equipment in a 7-year cycle. So just like roofs and HVAC equipment, we've got to refresh this equipment to ensure we're supporting the educational and operational pieces of the district. Our wired network begins with this proposal of trying to keep a 10-year refresh cycle of that equipment. So here's how we prioritize our network to ensure it's meeting what is needed from the district. First is with learning. We want to make sure we're supporting all the curricular pieces that are coming into the district. Second's around our operations of how do we run our facilities. And finally, we have to make sure that network is secure. And so E-rate kind of covers the whole gamut of how we make sure those priorities happen. So from a financial impact, E-rate has 2 different ways of providing this reimbursement and the funding. So the first is through the BEAR invoicing, which is a fun way of saying it. Basically what that works out to be is we fully fund it in 1 year. The year after that, we get the reimbursement. The SPY method is actually where the service provider gets the reimbursement. The difference there is for this purchase, we would have to fund it all up front in 1 year, then wait a year to get that reimbursement. Whereas with the SPY method, we're only paying what we're obligated that year, and then the service provider that we're purchasing the services and equipment from, they go and get the reimbursement from the federal government at that point. So we utilize both methods of invoicing currently, and here's just a few different ways that we utilize E-rate. So our internet services through Morenet, it uses the SPY method. We're only paying what we're obligated each year. The wide area network through SpringNet, we're currently utilizing the BEAR method where we get reimbursement the year after. And you see that on our budgetary planning with Tara. So here's how the proposal that's before you now works out. We will be asking you to approve roughly a $1.8 million purchase. E-rate is going to fund $1.3 million of that, which means we will be paying roughly $500,000 of that overall purchase. We're going to utilize the SPY method of invoicing, meaning that we are not going to fund $1.8 million through our capital projects. We're going to fund that $500,000, and then the service provider is the one that's going to go get that $1.3 million, cover the rest of it. So one thing I want to point out here is that 72% and 28%. So I'm going to thank Kim for making sure that we've gotten all of our FRL applications in this year, because the amount of discount is based upon our FRL percentage. So with being over a 50% as a district, we're eligible for an 80% discount. Second thing I'll point out here is you don't see 80% there, you see 72%. And the reason for that is there are eligible and ineligible services when we do these purchases. So we're purchasing everything we need to run the network, but E-rate doesn't fund us or provide a discount on every single piece of that. And so the specific piece that really causes this is around services. They only provide reimbursement on specific services. And a lot of this comes back to some of those security pieces around firewall services that are more advanced that they don't provide discounts on. And so that's where you see that difference of 80% to 72%. There's just pieces that E-rate does not provide a discount on that we still need to ensure we're securing the network. So here's what next steps would look like. With approval at the February 28th meeting, we would then file our Form 71 with the signed contract, and the signed contract is dependent upon receiving federal funding. If we don't receive the federal funding for whatever reason, we're not obligated to continue with the contract. So we usually receive our funding letter in June through September, and once we receive that funding letter, we issue our purchase order, and then once we get the purchase order out, we begin to work and we can begin that invoicing process. With supply chain right now, we would anticipate probably December, January before we actually get the equipment and services in, complete that work, hopefully late winter, early spring next year. And what this purchase will do is refresh the wired equipment at our high schools, beginning that refresh cycle. Then each year going forward, we'll be coming back for our middle schools and elementary schools. We're just timing that with some E-rate funding, make sure that we're able to get all that reimbursement. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions around this exciting topic.
I've learned a lot.
E-rate dollars.
Can I just
Always.
summarize it to make sure I'm understanding this right? So we're going to spend $514,000 for over a 4-year period, right? 2013 through 2017.
For this, it's this individual purchase.
Oh, okay, so this is for 2023, it's 514,000. Got it. And then every year, there's going to be some other percentage E-rate, and this is going to refresh the high schools, land wires, not wireless, and then moving on to other schools. And when you say a 10-year refresh, 10 years from now, so 2033, we'll be redoing the high schools with another E-rate.
Exactly right.
Okay, so our final commitment is $500,000 for this year, and it could be something similar every year.
Yeah, and the 513 is the commitment for FY '24. So we have to be a year ahead of bidding and doing the paperwork, and so this will actually be part of the capital projects you see for next year's budget.
So this work will begin next August or next January?
We will hopefully have our funding letter by August, issue the purchase order, then hopefully get those switches in much quicker than what we've been seeing, but yeah, it'll be.
And because you're using that, not the bear, but the other one, the spy, then we're only out this, we don't have to upfront that other money.
Exactly right.
So in your experience, do you generally get the funding? Is there a chance that, okay, you almost.
We work with an E-rate consultant that and really helps us ensure we are compliant, we are completing all the right steps, and that we can.
So I don't remember seeing this last year. Maybe I was asleep at the table. But did we have an E-rate last year?
It's partially.
500,000.
So it was on K-Top.
Just on the K-Top.
Yeah, we've been around 350,000 the last several years for our wireless.
Okay, that would be why, because I'm actually well, thank you for the presentation. I didn't even know this existed, and it really helps understand how the federal government, because I hear about how they're helping bring internet, and I didn't quite understand it. This is how they're doing it.
I have a question. This being federally funded, are there any trade-offs that we agree to? Like, are there any requirements of the federal government? We're going to just hear that with some federal funding. Well, if we're going to fund this federally, we have to do X, Y, or Z.
The primary piece that we are required to do is be CEPA compliant. So the Children's Internet Protection Act is what that stands for, meaning we have to have a web filter on both our district network and the devices we provide to those students. That's where GoGuardian meets that requirement, and we're required to submit paperwork proving that we are CEPA compliant. So it's part of that program review and that overall cycle. That's the only piece that we are required to prove, along with ensuring that we're doing the competitive bidding process appropriately.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Bruce.
So this is going to come to us for approval of the contract or the funding?
Purchases on the 28th, this 28th.
Yeah, this information item tonight.
But it's for the 514, not to move forward, it's for the actual dollars.
The dollars, 513,000.
And we're approving the overall purchase of 1.8 because they need that reimbursement.
Moving on, 6.04, Academy of Exploration, construction contract.
Just do the next three.
Yeah, Travis, he will do the next three. He will. Okay, what's going on?
What the heck happened here?
Oh, that's lovely.
Board members, you can see it from your devices,
have
right?
any.
So just keep going, Travis.
Okay.
Keep going.
Oh, just that.
I minimized
We
it.
have the,
Clicked on the board docs icon, but
it's doing
I'm
its,
calling you John if you're not careful.
we got a long ways to go before that. I do have the mic. Okay, so this is a project we are extremely excited about with the expansion of the Academy of Exploration from one grade moving into 3 grades by 24-25. And we had been in the Discovery Centers, you know, and then now in the Geek Foundation with the Hillcrest renovation completed, the annex, formerly known as Fairview Elementary years and years ago because it's been used for Hillcrest High School as classrooms for quite some time, provided an excellent facility that we would be able to bring this expansion to fruition, and but by doing so, we need to renovate this particular facility. The facility was originally built in 1944. There was an add-on expansion in 1967, and then I tried to find the date on the most recent, which I believe was in the late 80s, early 90s, for where the band department had been practicing during each day. So one of the things that we have been doing over the last several months is, after we'd hired the architect for this work, is we have been working with the teachers, specifically with the Academy of Exploration, Dr. Hackenworth, Kelsey Bravo, our Director of Choice Programs, to really fine-tune what this space needed to be. And so it wasn't just a matter of going in and just updating and renovating the inside to make it look pretty, but it was purposefully creating the spaces so that we could have an elementary STEM school for these kids. And so what you see in front of you is just a summary of what is going to take place inside that building. It will be a complete gut and renovation. What's happened up to this point is we've already removed the asbestos. We have procured HVAC equipment. I believe in KCOB, you've got roof and tuck pointing that is scheduled for this particular project, but the bids for this project will come in 1 week from today, and so I don't have a specific dollar amount for you. We are expecting the construction of this particular project to be around the $2.5 million mark. We do have partial funding in this fiscal year that was part of capital, and then the remaining of it will be part of next year's fiscal budget. The project itself is about 13,828 square feet, and so when we look at cost per square feet, when we applied heavy renovation budgets to our potential bond projects, we used $235 a square foot. And this project, around 2.5, will be at about $180 a square foot. So it's tremendous value for what we are getting, specific to the type of programming that we're going to be able to have. Again, like I said, the annex was utilized for many, many years as just simply high school classrooms. And now we'll have the opportunity to turn that into an elementary school that is STEM focused, that will be able to provide that programming for many, many years to come. And there will be some site improvements that we will also do down the road, just to be able to create more of an elementary space for them. But extremely excited. You can see it, like I said, again, what the summary of all the work that's going to be going on the inside. So once the bids come in and we vet those and approve those, we will then bring that exact amount to you on the 28th for approval. So at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have at this juncture.
Can you remind me what, is this a single grade building?
So the expansion would be 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Currently, it's 5th grade right now. Is that correct, Kelsey? Yes.
So part of middle school.
Yeah, so we have 2 classes per grade, accommodating up to 150 students for the expansion. Right now, it's right around 48, 40.
And the annex would be all-inclusive. The students would not need to utilize any of the facilities at Hillcrest?
So the only thing right now in consideration, and it's something that the teachers actually asked for just recently in one of our meetings, was to be able to actually take the students to eat lunch in the cafeteria rather than having food brought to them. We haven't talked that through Dr. Cole yet. I know that question has been out there. We want to make sure the logistics are okay. Hillcrest doesn't start eating until 11:30. These students, I think currently their lunch is at 10:50, so they could eat at 11 o'clock very easily. It would reduce cost in needing a bunch of extra cafeteria tables up at the annex. It would reduce the labor in order to get the food up. They would get better, fresher food because they're able to eat there. So that would be the only piece of the facility that potentially would need to be used, but everything else would be housed there inside the, it's known as the annex.
Is your target to complete this for the next year?
Right, so the construction schedule, that's something we vetted with the contractors, and they feel it's very doable, and so they will hit the ground running once approval, and which is why we procured the HVAC equipment. That was part of KCOB a month or 2 ago, because we needed to make sure we got that moving, so that we had that, and that way we weren't waiting on it, because it's a long lead time. We wanted to get the asbestos taken care of and out of the way, getting the roof taken care of, the tuck pointing, get that building envelope. So there's some phases of things that we'll do, but the main bulk of getting in and demoing, we couldn't do until the asbestos obviously was removed, and we couldn't do and start until Hillcrest High School was out of that facility.
So the students already went through the lottery, the extra?
So you want to speak to that? I'm going to bring Kelsey Bravo, our director, up, and she can speak to the pieces specific to the program.
Yeah, so we ran our lottery right before winter break. So our students applied during the month of November. For the first time, we were able to run a lottery for 48 students instead of 40. So we're going to gradually be able to continue to expand those seats. We had around 221 applicants this year.
No, but I mean, the lottery is already including 4, 5, and 6?
Next year, we will start with 5th and 6th graders. So our current 5th graders will get to stay with us for an additional year, and then we'll grow.
So even though we're going to have space for 4, 5, and 6, you're not going to bring the 4th graders just yet?
Not just yet.
That's the question I was asking. Okay, thank you. Oh.
I can stay around if you have
Any other questions? So I'm just going to conclude by saying that Travis was very kind to allow me to go take a walk through the Fairview, because that's where I went to elementary. It's still it's old, it's still a great old building, but it certainly needs a lot of love, and it needs a renovation. But it was awesome to go through the building. When I attended there, it was 3 classrooms. 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th and 6th, no kindergarten back in the day, and see the little auditorium. I can't believe we managed it. It was just a little school then to get through, but then the addition in 1967 added some space. But then again, looking at the condition it's in, and then realizing we had high school students in that building until, how long ago, Travis?
A month ago.
Then was a bit appalling. I will just use the term because the facilities in that building were very old, and I doubt any of you would have been very happy with your children going to school there. But we had them there, and they did fine. And so, but now they've got beautiful new Hillcrests, and now we'll redo this building and have our kids there. It's a great use of that building. So, and Travis was very excited and pointed out awesome things they have planned to do, and so it's very comforting to me to know that old building is going to be utilized for many years to come. Lots of little kids there learning my favorite thing, STEAM subjects. So, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, Weller.
Okay, moving on. Weller Elementary roof replacement, still very important.
So we have a section of the Weller roof that has what's known as phenolic insulation over metal decking. We've got about 18,660 square feet of this. If this sounds familiar, we had sections of Glendale that had this very same type of roof that we had a project this past summer that we had to complete, and the very same thing took place. And so just a brief summary that when this particular phenolic insulation is exposed to moisture, it will create acid, and essentially it it's very corrosive to metal. And so the work that is needing to be done, because of over time you just simply have roof leaks on flat roofs, we need to get in and do a complete roof tear-off, evaluate, and then replace whatever metal decking is needed. Along with this, there are some sections of the roof that do not have this phenolic insulation, but they are due for replacement because of life cycle. And so this is being brought to you for your consideration because it does exceed that $500,000 amount. This is what we call one of our early bid projects. It will come out of FY24 capital, out of our roof replacement placeholder that we have, and it's for $703,501. And upon approval, we would be able to get started ordering materials and be ready to finish this project this summer. What questions do you have?
How old is this roof?
Kelly, I don't have that information, but I can get that for you.
Thank you.
And just to be clear, the entire roof will be replaced?
No.
No?
There's a section of the roof, and I imagine it's probably one of the older sections, has a phenolic insulation. That is the main problem.
And
there are some adjacent areas, some adjacent sections that have hit life cycle replacement time frame, out of warranty, and we need to replace those. So it is not the whole roof.
I guess when you say life cycle, I'm thinking like it's a 30-year or whatever the life cycle is. So the building has different roof.
That is correct.
Life.
Yes, many of our roofs are exactly like that. It's, roofing is very
So
expensive.
when the life cycle for the other parts come up, we got to go back. See, I was thinking we're going to knock off a school a year, but it doesn't sound like it.
It doesn't usually work out that way because we get very few of our, especially our older schools, were built at the exact same time. We've had additions to every elementary school that was done in the late 80s and 90s.
I was just thinking Glendale. I wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, high schools have multiple sections that take a long time to take care of.
So how much is typically in the fiscal year 24 or other years' budgets for this kind
Yeah,
of stuff?
so we did that calculation a while back, Scott, to determine how much money can we spend and what do we need to accomplish in order to be able to stay within warranty. And so we spend about $1.5 million annually on roofs. And so that should get us to where we're in a cycle of 25 years. Obviously, these types of roof issues are more expensive rather than just simply replace with an overlay. So sometimes you get these and we don't like them, but it has to be done.
How many more schools have this?
I don't know the answer to that. I could try to find out if you'd like, though.
No, I'm just curious if, you know, how long. This is a pretty expensive process.
Right.
So what schools are we doing this year? So we're going to spend the $1.5 million?
Well, yeah, that'll be determined, right. So we'll figure out where the next need is for the $800,000, and we base that off of all of our we have a capital forecast tool that we use. Obviously, our maintenance techs get up on the roads and we determine
You go and see what's old, what's been outdated.
We prioritize and determine what's...
Then you just kind of go up to 800,000 so that you hit the 1.5. Got it.
Long term.
Thank you.
Travis, I'd like to just comment, take this opportunity to comment on this. I know you know this. This is just a moment to kind of lessons learned, or at least just point it out, that things don't always work out like we thought they would when we're designing something. And this is a system, it's a flat roof, and no one realized when they designed this on paper that these two materials reacted that way. But we're left holding the bag, and then we have to pay for it down the road. And it doesn't meet its full life cycle. So I just think it's worth pointing out as we're getting ready to potentially invest in a lot more schools or buildings that, and I'm happy that we do have the owner's rep to help guide us through this process, that we should always be aware that when we're trying something new, no matter what the architects or whoever tells us, when you're talking siding, roofing, I mean, you just don't know until that thing has been around for long enough what you don't know. I mean, but we know brick, block, pitched roofs, like, they have longevity, right? But if we're coming in with flat roofs and a lot of architectural design and some new products, there's always a question mark that we're going to be the ones having to pay for this in the future. And I think it's important that...
And the application is critical, and so it's really important that we keep high standards for our installers, because it can be cheaper, but when you have high standards for the people and the product that you use, that helps tremendously.
Oh, very good. Any other questions on change orders? Where are we?
Change orders now.
Yeah, agreements, yeah. Okay, moving on. Where are we?
Well, we just came to change orders.
Yeah. We finished with
We finished the roof.
Okay, change orders and agreements.
So tonight's list is very small, and it is just agreements. There are no change orders on this, and you can see that the total represents $20,521.61. It's primarily some things that are needed at Hillcrest around wayfinding signage, some additional furniture that was not originally ordered, and of all things at Jarrett, no flags and flag holders in classrooms that we need to have. And so, very small list, but this is something that I would ask for your vote tonight.
So this is an action item.
Question?
Question?
The flags. This may sound strange, but what kind of flags are we talking about?
American flags?
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, so this is an action item.
I make a
So,
motion that we approve the change orders and agreements as presented.
thank you. We have a motion by Steve, and we have a second.
I'll second it.
Mary Ann?
Sorry.
I agree with Mary Ann.
I'm sorry.
Second. Please vote at this time. I was yelling with my vote, is that good?
wait to say and then it just creeps up on me.
At this time, we still have a few things to do, but everyone okay? We need a break. You good to go?
We're almost done.
Let's keep going.
Almost.
Ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, you ready? We are,
Our information campaign about Proposition S is underway. We've made already nearly 60 presentations to staff, parents, and community members. We have scheduled a series of tours and presentations in early March for parents, staff, and community members to visit schools slated for improvement. We'll be at Reed Academy on March the 2nd, Pipkin Middle School on March the 6th, and Pershing School on March the 7th. The tours will start at 5:30 each night, followed by a presentation at 6, and we will share this information out publicly. We also launched today a thought exchange to obtain feedback about Proposition S, just to make sure that we have the information and we're actually providing the information needed to voters so they can make an informed decision on April the 4th. So I'd like to invite you all out to Stewey Alternative Center. They're going to host their annual Empty Bowls Luncheon on Monday, February the 20th from noon to 1 o'clock. This is the 22nd year that students have organized this event to raise funds and awareness to help end hunger. For a $10 donation, you can receive a handmade ceramic bowl, soup, and bread. And once again, that's Monday from 12 to 1 at Stewey Alternative School for a donation of $10. And if you can't, you are welcome to send Stewey that donation. The students will be glad to receive it. That concludes mine.
So what was that? That was the bowl. That was
Empty bowls? The empty bowls, so you soup, bread, it's a fundraiser, and so for $10, and the students use it as a fundraiser.
So we just show up at noon?
You can show up at noon, yes, and bring your $10.
Yes. So you bring it up to, okay, I
So
guess.
they made the ceramic bowls.
Oh, I got it.
And so you'll
Okay.
receive a bowl, soup,
I thought
and
there was
bread.
food involved.
It is food involved, soup and bread in the bowl.
Oh, they make the bowl. Okay, got
Yes.
it.
they make it, they
And
fill it with soup.
staff also help make
maybe
the
bread,
bowls.
for $10. It's called, they do, how many years have they been doing this now?
22 years.
Long
Did
time.
you have to RSVP or do you just show up?
I did, but would you like me to RSVP for you?
We can let Tammy know.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. And all of these events coming up, which if you have folks in the community are interested to go to the open houses, it's a real, for folks that are not sure about the bond, it's a great eye-opening experience for them to visit the schools and see the condition of the buildings and helps them with their thinking in terms of how they're going to vote. So, okay, moving on to 9.01 board comments. We're now ready to hear reports and/or comments from board members. Kelly?
Oh, sorry. You can go first.
Yeah, so I had a comment that I wanted to make, I guess, to the rest of the board. I wanted, I guess, to request that we as a board make a request and work together with staff to quickly come up with a plan to address discipline and behavior.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, last part.
To address behavior and discipline. As just myself, I've been hearing more and more that this is an issue at the classroom level. Our survey that we did for the strategic plan was abundantly clear that our teachers and households see this issue and want us to do something about it. And I think it has far-reaching impacts on retaining bus drivers, retaining substitute teachers, retaining teachers, overall academic impact. We've had a student come up and speak to us about some issues. I would like to request that we ask for so I don't know if it's a policy review or what it is, but I would like to task the staff with a deadline, with providing us a recommendation on changes that should be made to address this issue that we've heard from the public about. And I would like to put a timeline on that we have those changes ready to be implemented by this coming school year. I don't know further how that looks other than just asking Dr. Lathan and her staff to put forth some sort of plan that we can, I guess, vote on and implement.
So as board president, let me swing back around and ask you. So you want us, the board, to ask the administration to come up with something that will solve behavior issues occurring in the classrooms?
I would like to see a plan. And as compared to piecing it out over time, we might see this in a KCOB, it's one program, or this in another. And I would like to see a comprehensive plan that we understand and we can communicate to the public, and we can be clear on both how it is that we're addressing behavior through both programs and also discipline or policy. And I'm asking the board to do this because I think it's clear the public has asked for this, and I think hopefully it's something that we can work together on and all commit to, rather than just me as one board member saying, Dr. Lathan, I would like for you to do this. I think it's obviously more impactful that we say we hear the public and band together as a board to ask for this and also say this is something that we can do quickly and not sit around and wait for.
Because I'm still having a little trouble understanding. So you want some quick turnaround on some solution to classroom discipline issues?
Plan of how to address it, yes.
Well, we have in our strategic plan, and we have that in our strategic plan that the administration is working on. That's part of our strategic plan.
Okay.
So you want something in addition to that?
I would like a plan specific to how we are addressing in 2023 the rising issues, behavior in the classroom, and I would like to be able to implement things by the start of next school year.
Do we have a timeline on our strategic plan?
I think we did.
No, but we may be talking about that later. Tonight. Because we're going
We
over
already talked about that
goals
previously.
for 2020.
I hear you.
we are?
Let's just leave it at that. I hear you. Let's leave it at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, sorry. But
No, I was just saying, we've
Yeah.
already initially
Okay.
talked about that. We will talk about it.
So the wheels in my head are turning, and if I could just, you're like, uh-oh, yeah.
So you made your
Got it, I got
comment
it.
and your request, and so, okay. Any other further comment from anyone?
Or comments?
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, I know Mary Ann has.
Mary Ann.
So anyone else?
I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait.
No, it's okay, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, I want to chime in on that. I think I agree with you in that I think we all know that we have some discipline issues in that, and it's really hard to tackle this kind of thing. But one of the focuses that I've seen or hear from people within the community in that is cell phones. And I kind of put something together because I wanted to talk about that specifically, just to bring it to everybody's attention that these are some of the things I've heard. That obviously they're a huge distraction within the classroom, from gaming to sexting. Cell phones come from a lot of distractions that aren't appropriate for learning environments in the school. A few examples are texting in class, sharing memes, gaming, listening to music, watching YouTube. Cell phones can be a channel for bullying within the school system. Digital addictions to mental health concerns by being addicted to using cell phones. I think that's kind of the way the culture is today. And especially cheating on exams was one of the areas of concern where some of the kids may be learning the wrong way by using cell phones within the classroom and that. And so I just bring that up for the simple fact that it ties in with what you're saying with regards to discipline, because it does create discipline issues for us. And it takes away from what I believe is our job to be able to tackle and provide academic achievement for our kids, or at least provide the tools in order to do that, or reach academic achievement for all of our kids within the school system. So I just wanted to write in on that because I do understand that. And these are the things that I've just been hearing. And I'm sure you all heard about it. So
And I think that's a
maybe
great
to heighten that level up, I think I would agree with that to some extent. Maybe even to the extent, Dr. Lathan, that if, I've even thought of, if we even had a list of the offenses by each month within our school system, and having the board have that as a reference to see what is really happening within the school system with regards to the disciplinary process or the infractions that are taking place. And so that would be a suggestion, I think, that would help at least make me feel like, okay, it looks like we're making progress in that. I think it's a good unit of measure to be able to see what's happening, where, and we do see improvements on that. I think it'd be a good indicator. That would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Many of you don't know, I am on Friends of SPS. I'm on that committee, and that is to support Proposition S for our school bond coming up. I'm actually on the Finance Committee for that as well. And I have for each and every one of you, if you would like to make a contribution to our campaign in order to promote Yes on S on April 4th. I will say this, that I am going to contribute $200 to it for the campaigning in order to get some awareness around our community, signs and things of this nature. We all know that presentations are happening within the school system as well. And so by taking that board member hat off and putting on the Friends of SPS, I would just encourage you to help support that if you feel so freely to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Mary, Scott, do you have any or any?
I'm going to add something to what you said. So this morning, like, I don't know, 6:30, I was watching CNBC. It's like a business-related show. And they were talking about this bill that they were moving in the Congress. I didn't know about it, that it has to do with social media companies. Do you guys know about that? And there were some really staggering statistics that I wasn't even aware of, which is 3 out of 5 girls are suffering from depression, and 30% of them seriously contemplate suicide.
Is that due to COVID? Was that
This is the
article about
post-COVID.
COVID?
All they were attributing it to social media and screens. Did you hear this?
I've heard that. but-
Yeah, I didn't, so
Was
I...
this one related to, though, what occurred during COVID and they were on their screens more?
I don't know, but it was just, but, you know, I mean, it's post-COVID, but
Yes.
social media still, and screens are still an issue. So anyways, I just would feel better that we that we don't contribute to that. Anyway, I just wanted, those are just some numbers I came across this morning, and you talked about it, so I wanted to throw it out there. Oh, but I would like to make a few remarks. And I'm going to pass something out to you guys. Sorry. One, two, three.
Can I pass them down for you?
That way. Okay, so I don't want to ramble on, so I actually typed this up real quick. So I wanted to share with you guys my recent legislative involvement that you may have heard about, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I want you to know what I did, but also why I did it, and where is it going to go from here, so that you can understand what I'm thinking, because I think it's important, and I just wanted to share it with you. So, all of us, with the exception of Denise, are in our first term, and for me, that first year was just a huge learning curve. And then since then, the second year, we've been really busy with the strategic plan, infrastructure, the bond proposal. All this has kept us very busy. So, but when the legislative salute came up, I was like, okay, this is, I can get my feet wet in this and try to figure out how this works. Just another avenue to advocate for our students. And thank you, Dr. Lathan, because you forwarded the very comprehensive legislative platform, all the bills on the House side, on the Senate side, and I looked at that, and I looked for something that something that had some teeth in it, that could help us, because seriously, by the time I finished looking at that document she sent us, it seemed like it was a dartboard, and they're just throwing everything they can at it, hoping that something will stick. I mean, at least that was my impression. And then last year, we ended up with the omnibus. And I don't know if that was the strategy they used last year, but that's, looking at the document, it seems to be the strategy they're using this year. So in the meantime, in November, we went to MSBA and we had opportunities to participate in the breakout sessions. So I participated in how to advocate for your students in Jeff City, that was run by the Kansas City and St. Louis presidents. There was a lot of rural districts there, and we had some really great conversation. I even talked with like John about it, and some of you guys at that time, I don't know if you remember. And so, and on my own in the meantime, I was learning more and more about I'll say the educational landscape since, that very first year that I came on was the year that the ESA and the charter bill passed. I don't know if you remember. So I've been looking at how has the educational landscape changed in the last couple years. And so all of that helped me zero in on Senate Bill 85. And thank you, Dr. Lathan, for forwarding that to everybody, asking our lobbyists to forward the most recent version of that. So I'm not here to talk about the bill per se. I don't want to talk about it with you, but other than to say that it is a local control bill. And so I decided, as part of our legislative salute, that I was going to go and try to find something that I could learn about more. And it was easier than I thought. I just picked up the phone, the number was there. I called the sponsoring senator. I had an opportunity to meet with her and learn about it, and asked a lot of questions, the intent, the background, the pros and cons and all that jazz. And then I did some research, and ultimately I did decide that I wanted to go and testify in a Senate hearing in favor of that bill.
In your personal capacity?
In my personal, as an individual, right. Well, the first time I was there, I went as a board member as part of our legislative salute.
To visit with our local legislators?
Oh, I went and visited with as many, and I can come to that. Okay. Everybody's doors were open to us, and I felt like they were, when you said, oh, I'm here with Springfield Public School Board of Education, it was like, oh, suddenly they wanted you to have a seat. And I just felt like, I felt like that was my first time there. I mean, other than going with my fourth grader on a field trip, that was my first time as on an adult mission. And I felt like the doors were really open, and everybody was very welcoming, and they were genuinely interested, and I guess impressed that I was there. Anyways, I'm
sorry I derailed you. You have to testify in your personal capacity.
Yeah, because I just want to get through it so that you understand what I did and why I did it. So, at the time when I made this decision, I didn't realize, and I crunched the numbers, and I'd reached out to Dr. Lathan, and I'd spoken with Dr. Mulford. I didn't realize that we would qualify, and come to find out, as these bills do, as Steve knows, they change. So I showed up, and in hearing that they changed the cutoff, and so we did qualify at that time. And since then, I've learned that it has unanimously, with unanimous bipartisan support, has passed through the Senate committee. But of course, now there's a committee substitute, which means that they've even worded the language some more. And the version that Dr. Lathan forwarded to you is that version. Now, I have the original version if you're interested in it. I have the new version that you all have, but I have it in its bill form. So we don't know what this bill is going to look like as it moves through, but suffice it to say that I was in favor of the intent that was behind it, and I do want to point out that I learned that there were other educational entities, for example, MASA, which is the Superintendents Association, Primary Secondary Principals Association, Missouri NEA. All of these various educational groups were there and were in support of it. So, I do want to tell you why I did it. So what was in my head and what I was thinking, and then so that I can kind of propose to you what I want you to hear from me is, I had decided that I wasn't going to, I had stuck my head in the sand my first year, and I didn't want to do that. And because there is this fast and furious train called choice, that is just barreling ahead. And, okay, let me just make sure that you understand. I'm not necessarily dissing that. There are plenty of really great private schools. There are some classical liberal charter schools that do a fine job. That's not at all what I'm trying to go after. What I want to say is that we have to recognize that at its core, it's a very attractive thing, especially to people who are viewing public education as a quote-unquote failing system. And I was trying to figure out how we fit into that equation so that we could effectively compete in the choice market, because that could be a reality for us sooner than we think. And I think that, so basically what I'm saying is that choice is this carrot that they're dangling, and everybody's kind of running after it, and they're asking this of their legislators. And I thought, and still think, that it is short-sighted of us to just write off the legislators who aren't doing cartwheels or singing the praises of our public schools, because I do think it's important that we recognize the problem for what it is. Whether it's real or whether it's a perception that we're failing, whether you want to say that's an attack on public schools or you want to frame it as accountability, however way you want to frame it, we got to get past it. Because if we dig in on our side and they dig in on their side in these trenches, who's going to win in the end? And I don't know if I'm going to be happy with that result. So, there's plenty of charter schools in Kansas City, plenty in St. Louis. I really think that with this expansion, when, I don't know, whatever word you want to use, that Springfield is where the next target is. I think they're going to come here. And I saw this as an opportunity where I could do my part to change the narrative. And I wanted to help them, people, as an individual. I wanted legislators and people to see what are some of the things that would allow us to do better. I think that I felt that I needed to do a better job of communicating, hey, listen guys, these are some of the things we're doing really, really well. And maybe we're not doing as well in some areas, but these are the reasons we're not doing as well. And these are the things that are inhibiting us. And have a dialogue about what are some of the things that we could do to solve this situation, because the consensus seems to be just write off public schools and just come up with an alternative. And I think that it is important to us to get in the game and to educate legislators about the potential harms of choice. It's a very attractive thing, but there are, when you really look at it and try to expose the underbelly of choice, there's a lot to look at and to evaluate. And here's the thing, we all have the relationships that we've built upon with our legislators, but I'm finding that they don't know what they don't know. And then we can't fault them for what they don't know, right? They're just going with this because they think that's what people want, but they don't really understand what's at stake. Okay, let me get back to my script. So what I want to convey to you is I went there as an individual the following week. I went there as representing a member of the school board the first week, and what I discovered is that we have a lot more muscle than we think. Certainly we have it as individuals, but as an elected body, especially representing the largest district in Missouri, we do have some muscle, and we can flex that. And the question is, and we can do that in a very potentially significant way. So I would like to urge everyone to learn more about this particular bill, look at its merits, and this thing that I passed, and I just, all the administrators or whoever's out there, I invite you to go. This is an opportunity to learn about the bill from Senator Jill Carter. She will be in Springfield a couple days from now at Eagles Lodge, 603 West Plainview Road, and she's going to talk about what is school choice, how's the money tracked, will public schools be able to compete, and can the schools be improved? And the reason I'm telling you about all this, and I plan on going, by the way, because with this new edition, I have some questions, and we've had some conversation. I have some questions about funding. How is the funding going to be with the assessment piece? The charters were written out, the charters got written back in. Why did the charters get written back in? So I have some questions for her as well. But the reason I'm going on and on about this is I want to see what you guys think, if this is a road we want to take. And if it is, how, when, who, what, in what capacity do we want to involve the lobbyists? Because as I'm understanding, is that when these things start moving, we come back after spring break, and it's just, things are going to start happening really fast. Before you know it, blink of an eye, it'll be March, it'll be April, and it's just going to come out of nowhere, and we're going to have to react quickly. So if this is something that we ultimately decide that we do want to get involved in order to be prepared to jump in, have a special meeting or whatever, to just pull that trigger, I think that we need to have the conversation sooner rather than wait for that time, because then it might be too late for us to get our act together. So you guys can talk about it now, or maybe later you can give feedback to Denise, Dr. Lathan, or I, what your feelings are, what direction you want to go in. And I've given everybody one of these.
Can I just share one thing? I know we did speak in January board members, because we all were scheduled to attend the salute. And then the weather. And so I did raise to you all at that point that we could go as a team within the next several weeks if you wanted me to get that worked out. Advocacy is extremely important as it relates to our school district. So if that's, something that you want me to work with our lobbyists on, scheduling a time for us to get some meetings in Jeff City, I'll be glad to work on that.
Great, okay. And I know that MSBA is going on, is it March
28th? It's the day we have a board meeting.
Oh, we have a board meeting,
So,
so
we
that's
can talk
not an
about
option.
that. Yeah, that's the conflict. It would be a good day. We actually will have students, SOB students have been invited to be in the Capitol that day, actually to share with legislators about the program. So they were invited from the state, by the state.
Is that the same day the MSBA?
It's the 28th, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's our meeting, we can't go. But you're going to look at finding another day we can all...
To find another date that you all are interested in. Yes. Okay. I'll work on that.
Anyone else have any?
I'm very happy to hear that Miriam's getting involved in the legislative process and that she is encouraging the rest of the board to do that. I think it's a little presumptuous to think that the rest of us have not been, but I'm glad
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I said the relationships that I know you're all building, because I know everyone is building those relationships.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. So as far as for us, if there's no other comments? Okay, we have that information, and, okay. Let's move on to upcoming meetings. So our next regular board meeting will be on February 28th. So remember, from what we've learned tonight, so we have some time to follow up with any additional questions we have with Dr. Lathan, our administration. So please send your questions to Dr. Lathan, because on February 28th, that's an action meeting. We'll be taking action on a lot of the items that came before us tonight. So do your best to get your final questions. We ask a lot of questions tonight, but get your final questions to Dr. Lathan so she can get those last-minute answers back to you, so we'll be ready to vote on the 28th. So now we'll move on to our Plus Delta purpose statement. Sure, go right ahead. And then leave those with Tammy. Do you have any Plus Delta for this meeting? And we had quite an evening. Do you need to meet in executive session? So the recommended action is that the board meet in exec session to discuss real estate, legal, and personnel matters as provided in sections 610.021, 1, 2, 3, and 13 RSMO. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Danielle, and a second by Scott. And please vote. Motion carries. So at this time, we will